It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Well, we'll stock a lot of NBA draft lottery as the Jazz have the new number 2 overall selection. A man who I think, I know he doesn't have a lot of time to break down NBA draft, but I got to imagine was a little fired up yesterday. Morgan Scalley, Utah head coach and longtime Jazz fan, joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. How are you, sir?
Doing well, brother. How are you, Scotty?
Oh, man, I'm so good. Come on, there was a little bit of excitement in the Scalley house when you found out the Jazz were picking number 2.
You better believe it. We need to see the Jazz get back to greatness, brother. And
yes.
I've always been a Jazz fan. My son's somewhat of a bandwagon fan, and so we need to get him back on the bandwagon.
Coach, hope you're doing well. Appreciate you joining us today. I was in that spot where the head coach is kind of one rung above you, and you're doing your best to keep things afloat, and all of a sudden, the door opened for you, and you move obviously into the, I don't know what it is. You don't move up a seat. I guess you move up your whistle is gold or something. I don't know what you get, but congrats on that. And just what has that been like? Not an all-encompassing thing, but what it's been like to go through that this off season.
It was obviously hectic at first when things were going on, but ultimately once we settled down, got the staff in place, it really was a pretty smooth transition. Spring ball was so much about making sure that the new staff and the players understood the culture. And I thought, spring ball went very well. This season is all about really the development of the offensive line, defensive line. That's how this season's gonna go, bottom line. And I love what Jordan Gross, Kay Brechterfield, Luther Ellis have done at both of those position groups. Obviously, replacing 2 first-round draft picks on the offensive line is a tall task. But I love the guys that we have in place. And like I said, I thought spring ball was a success.
So I'm going to give you my most underrated hire you made. Because everybody's going to talk about Jordan Gross, and rightfully so. Just an incredible person, incredible player. But to help make his job a little easier, I think the addition of Alex Gerke, I think, was a really smart move on your part to really bring in some knowledge of that offensive line and really help Jordan make that transition into college coaching. What's he meant like to that offensive line room and how they've come together?
Well, just that seasoned experience, and like you mentioned, Jordan had been coaching high school ball, but Jordan had a PhD in scheme. He understands offensive line play. It was, having Gerke helped him establish kind of the culture he wanted in the offensive line room, but also helped Jordan understand how we do things at the college level, everything from compliance to recruiting and so you're right, very, very underrated hire, and Alex has been nothing but great with these young men.
Coach, obviously the quarterback situation is a good one. There seems to be a great amount of depth there with your quarterbacks, and you got great options in both. How are both progressing? And you don't want to show your hand, but I would assume you, like last year, you use both those guys to kind of throw the opponents off.
Yeah, I mean, as a defensive coordinator, I'm always looking for things that I would struggle with. And having 2 quarterbacks that are athletic, that can throw the ball, run the ball, that's something definitely that we're going to utilize. Both those young men are great leaders, both understand, the scheme, and they're hungry. Those 2, as good of friends as they are, they're also very competitive. And so that's what makes for good depth is having guys that are competing. So, love those two. That was a huge coup to keep those guys in the program. And so you can't win a championship without a quarterback, and without depth at quarterback.
So I was talking to your the coach up at Utah State, Bronco Mendenhall, and he mentioned with the 5-for-5 thing that he was holding on to a spot or two just in case it does become retroactive, and he can add guys from last year's team that would qualify for that. Now, the rule coming out now says, or at least that is proposed, is that nobody will be back, but you know that the lawsuits will soon follow. How are you playing your roster in terms of open spots just in case you do have an opportunity to add some guys at the last second?
Yeah, that's something we've been working with our GM on. And I don't know that we have a ton of guys in that boat, but definitely some significant players that would benefit, that we would benefit, they would benefit from coming back as well. So really it's almost like you're dealing with the portal with those guys and making sure that the numbers are going to work out. If you had a crystal ball, it'd be much easier. But at the same time, that's why we pay the GM and his assistant the money that we do.
Are you in favor overall of the 5-for-5?
I am in favor of it.
Why is that?
I'm in favor of it simply because everyone knows, okay, here you've got 5 years to play, no matter how many games. There is no red shirt. People aren't worried about a red shirt. Am I going to red shirt this year? It's just, if you can play and you can help us win. I always thought it was the detriment to the player of not, being able to play more than four games and limiting what they can do. I also think that there comes a point in time where players do need to move on when you've got the difference in age and that we do in college football now since COVID. And then, obviously the church service, the mission, that's going to play a factor in that. They won't be penalized for church service, for military service. So that was, I know big for people in this state, was to make sure that a part of that 5-for-5 was not penalizing those that wanted to go on missions.
The hiring of Kevin McGivern, very, very innovative. I mean, and it's been all over the place. Louisiana Tech, Southern Utah, BYU, Oregon State, Utah State most recently. But honestly, the thing that when I've watched his teams, man, he loves to fling that thing around. Are you looking to open the offense a little bit from, the days, obviously ball possessions and all that is so important, but are you going to try to open things up and maybe take a few more chances here and there?
Well, we're going to do what, I want to be explosive no matter where that comes from. And if we're an explosive offense, but we're not physical, to me, that's the detriment to the entire team. You have to be physical, period, end of story, because a lack of physicality gets exposed at the highest levels. And so the priority, the premium is on physicality, and then explosive football, obviously explosive plays that can be from running the ball, from catching the ball. I think we have one of the best wide receiver groups we've had since I've been here. And so, yeah, we want to get our playmakers the ball, but, ultimately, if you're not practicing physical football, if you're just spreading the ball out and you're throwing it every single down, I don't think your defense gets tougher or more physical doing that. You have to play complementary football, and that's what Kevin's offense does. And Kevin and I are on the same page. Yes, we want to be explosive. Yes, we want to get chunk yardage, but not at the detriment of or sacrificing physicality.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Morgan Scalley, head coach at the University of Utah, joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm curious to know what a game week will look like in terms of you and your responsibility, and then also Colton Swan. Are you sitting in on those defensive meetings in terms of game plan? I know Colton will have the duties on Saturday, but is it going to be tough to you to hand the reins completely over to him? Will you have some involvement? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, I've tried to be as hands off as I can. And I understand, and if there's questions as to what I'm seeing schematically, I'll ask him. But Colton Swan's been with me long enough to have earned my trust. To be able to call a game. He's called it before at Weber, so this is a guy that's very well equipped to do the job. Am I there for him as a sounding board? You bet. Will I give my, opinion on things? Yes, but he needs to know that he has my full support, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Already in spring, it's tough to sit there and not get involved. But I think the easier thing for me was to go over on the offensive side to get away from it. That's been, I think, for me, one of the most important things for me was to be a voice on the offensive side, simply because those players haven't heard a lot from me, other than yelling and screaming on the defensive side. So even to be in the offensive staff rooms to talk about, what would give me fits, be a sounding board for them as well. I think that type of collaboration only improves what you do on both sides of the ball.
I love your tweets, Coach. And you're a really optimistic, positive guy. And not all people are like that. So I hit retweet on a lot of your stuff. I like your stuff. But in all honesty, where did that get instilled? Who are some of the people along the way that instilled that positivity? Kind of that. That you were that way as a player too. I loved watching you play and fly around and give everything you had. But who instilled that in you? Give me a couple names of people that were pivotal in that for you.
Man, I just think, experience throughout my life. I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I love the education process. I love what football's done for me, those who breathe life into me as a football player, and who, when I was maybe not in love with football, breathed life into me. But I think hard times in life really help you recognize what you actually have in life and how grateful, that brings a whole lot of gratitude. You can go through hell and really find beauty in it. And so knowing that type of pain, knowing that type of darkness, you can be there for other people in their pain. Everyone's going through something. Everyone's got something hard going on in their life. If not, they've got a family member. And I just think there's too much negativity, comparison going on in social media that causes whether it be mental health problem, whatever it is, unrealistic expectations. I just think we need to be better and more understanding with each other.
Amen and hallelujah. I will just leave that at there. Love that answer.
Hey, before we let you go, I get asked a lot, who are the coaches I really look up to? Who are the coaches I love being around? You're always at the top of the list, and right there next to you is Sharif. What's it like been going on this journey, not just for yourself and this transition, but to have Sharif there right next to you?
Yeah, he's a guy that when I was a player, he was so inspiring. His passion for the game, his passion for Utah. and what Utah did for him really inspired me. As a young coach, I remember just talking to him. He was a sideline reporter, and I said, at some point, we're going to be working together, dude. And, a few years later, it was happening. And then it looked like we were going to be fired at some point. We had 2 5-7 seasons, and things weren't going great. And we ended up finishing up with I think a 10-win season. But even after that 10-win season, it wasn't looking good for us. Kalani had left. He took Elisa Tuyaki with him to Oregon State. So Sharif and I were sitting in the staff room together after a meeting that Kyle had with Chris Hill, and we didn't know what was going on. And so we're sitting there, neither of us knew what was going on. And we just looked at each other and said, well, let's just get to work. Let's just control what we can control. And this many years later, I mean, how good is God that we're still together. He is my best friend. That's my guy. And we've been through good times, bad times, and we've stuck it out together. So he's family and my best friend, and grateful to have him on staff.
Yeah, he's the best. I don't know how he goes into a living room and doesn't close every single recruit, because I don't know how I don't know how anybody could say no to that guy.
Well, and he wouldn't let him out of the room.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's imposing.
Hey,
and he's an attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows exactly where he can walk to the line. You're right.
Well, Coach, we can't be happy enough for you. Looking forward to chatting with you throughout the season. Enjoy whatever kind of off season you get to have. I know it's probably not much, maybe a day or two in July, but until then, have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
You got it. One of the best dudes on the planet. There he is, Morgan Scalley, head coach, University of Utah, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.